Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Elle, and today I'm going to be doing a video about small town romances. I will be recommending recent small town romances that I've read. I read a ton of small town romances in 2023. I feel like it was the year of small town romances to like have their moment, and I absolutely loved it. I made this video about a year ago. And I wanted to update it because I've read so many more amazing romances, and I just wanted to include some of them on this list if you want to read some small town romances, because I love them. Like, they're just so cozy. I feel like a lot of them have found family vibes that are just adorable. So I just love this trope, and I'm excited to share these with you. And also, I got a new sweater. I wanted to show you guys. It has hearts on it. It is so cute. Okay, of course there's not like a heart here that you could see, but it's adorable. It's from Arula, if any of you know that store. It's like an extension of Altered State, and I love that store, and this is so perfect, and I'm so excited to take like cute photos with it for Bookstagram. But let's get right into this video. The first series I want to talk about is the Cottonwood Cove series. So I have been binge listening to this whole series on audio, and it has been amazing. I just love like the narrators that Laura Pavlov picked for this series. All of them are amazing. So I wanted to go through all of the books really quickly and talk about like some tropes. So the first book is the oldest book, oldest brother in this series. So this whole series revolves around the Reynolds family in this small town, and the first book is about Hugh, the oldest brother, and he falls for his best friend's younger sister, and he's always looked out for her. I think her name is Lila, I'm pretty sure. And Lila is also coming back to the small town for the summer because she wants to take a break off before she goes off to her new job as being like, I think she's like partner of like a law like company thing. And she's really excited about it, but she also doesn't know if it's her path. And so she's spending the summer before going to her new big job, and she starts hanging out with her brother's best friend, and they start having a romance, and it is so good. I love this book. There's forced proximity, forbidden aspects, like he is totally off limits to her, and her brother is very protective over her because they did not have a great like family while growing up. And I love this one. I remember I gave it 4.5 stars. I just adored it. The series is great. The second book is called Under the Stars, and this is a Grumpy Sunshine like workplace romance. So the heroine decides to apply for this job under the hero, and he's like has his own publishing company, and he's just super duper grumpy, and it's Grumpy Sunshine, and it's so good. I loved their banter in this one and their dynamic. It was just adorable. I love this one. Super good. Then the next book, I don't remember what it's called, but I'll put it up on the screen. This one, our heroine basically gets fired from her job because of the hero. She is a journalist and a sports journalist, and they kind of had like a bad moment because she like went into this like locker room at the wrong time, and he got really mad at her and basically got her fired from her job. So she's going back to her small town and her family to kind of like, you know, lick her wounds and kind of get her stuff together. And the hero actually ends up going there to kind of get away from the media and to have an escape, and he runs into her, and it is hate to love, forced proximity, and they start working together because she is writing a piece about him, and he said he would help her if she helps him. And it's just so adorable because they go on these like runs together and getting to know each other, and the hero is obsessed with the heroine, and I love that in this book. It was so good. Then the fourth book is a friends to lovers fake dating romance. So the hero and heroine have been best friends for years, and the heroine went out of town for like a year to live abroad. and she was actually in a relationship, and I think it was her fiance, broke up with her, and she's just devastated. And so she's moving back to the small town where they grew up in, and the hero's also moving there to kind of get away from the media. He is a famous actor, working on like a big TV show, and he really needs to look good in the press right now because his co-star basically bashed him, and it's kind of crazy, thought they were in a relationship, but he was like, we only kissed like once, like whatever. And so they agreed to start fake dating so that she can get back her fiance and he can get the media off his back, and they fall for each other. And I love this one. I love Friends to Lovers, and I just love how like they know so much about each other, and I just love that about Friends to Lovers. This was adorable. He was obsessed with the heroine, and it was just so good. The last book in this series is probably my favorite, which is After the Storm. This is a second chance single dad romance. So the hero and heroine were in a relationship in high school, but it was just right person, wrong time. And after they broke up, she immediately got into a relationship with somebody else, and it became very serious. She ended up marrying him, and he ended up getting another woman pregnant. And so now it is years later, and she's coming back to the small town, recently divorced, and she is there to take care of her father. And the hero finds out that she's in town and is like seeking her out, is desperate to see her and to reconnect with her. And I love this romance. I loved her connection with his daughter. The daughter's mom is like not in the picture, by the way, and I just loved how they like came back to each other and realized like the mistakes they made in the past, and that they really are meant for each other. It is just such a great romance, and this series as a whole is adorable because it all revolves around different siblings in the series, and they all have like a family text chain that is just hilarious, and they all send each other like funny things through the text, and I just love this series. Highly recommend. It is amazing. I love all the tropes in the series as well. Such a great series, and I cannot wait to read Laura Pavlov's newest romance, which is Loving Romeo, which is going to be the start of her new series called Magnolia Fall. So I'm really excited for that. But if you haven't picked up Laura Pavlov, highly recommend. The next romance I'm going to talk about is Beyond the Thistle by Samantha Young, I think. I'm pretty sure it's Samantha Young. I always get Samantha Chase and Samantha Young confused, but I'm pretty sure this is Samantha Young. So the heroine is kind of on the run from her ex-boyfriend slash her child's father. He is like in the mafia, and he's a really bad guy, and so she decides to run away from him after something that happened, and she decides to run away to Scotland, and she starts working as a maid at this like Scottish manor, and things start happening where she's getting threats, and the hero is the bodyguard, one of the bodyguards of this manor, and he is tasked with guarding her and her daughter. And it is such a good romance. There's lots of action in this one. I highly recommend the audio because the narrator for the hero is amazing. His name is Shane East, and he has an amazing Scottish accent. Like, I was like, when I heard his voice, I was like, like gasped, and like, this is so good. There's so much action, and it's like forbidden and angsty because he's like, I don't want to cross that line with you. Like, I just want to protect you and your daughter. And it is just such a great romance with a lot of action and small town vibes, and like set in the Scottish Highlands. It is just so fun. I love this one. Then I have Forbidden Hearts by Corinne Michaels. This is the first in her Whitlock family series, I think is what it's called. And this is just such a fun like small town romance. I've talked about this one before because I love it. So the heroine is recently coming back from like her, I think it's like her PhD program or something, and she mysteriously left for a reason, and she's coming back to her small town and trying to figure out like what school she's gonna go to, and she's just trying to figure out, you know, her life. And the hero is a single dad, and he needs a nanny because he is co-parenting with his daughter's mother, and she's going on a trip, and his daughter is deaf, and they need a nanny who knows ASL, and the heroine is in town for an indefinite time and is like, hey, I can nanny for you. And he is like, no freaking way, like, you almost killed my daughter when you babysat her when you were younger. And he's just like really against the idea of her babysitting, I mean nannying for him, but she's like the only one in town who knows ASL. And so he begrudgingly agrees, and he and her just have such undeniable chemistry. He is also the sheriff of the town. And he is, I think, like 10 years older than her, so it's like forced proximity, forbidden, small town, single dad nanny romance, and it is so good. I ate this book up. I love the audiobook of this one. I love like the representation of this one because the heroine is also, I think she's like getting her doctorate or master's in audiology, so there's a lot of like really cool information that we get to learn about the heroine and about audiology, and it's just really cool, and I love this one. I loved their like chemistry for each other, and even though he didn't want to like her, he just couldn't help himself from falling for her, and it was just so good. Then I have Where We Started by Ashley Munoz. So this is a small town motorcycle romance second chance book, and I love this one. I read it in 2023. It is such a great introduction to motorcycle romances. If you've never read the genre, I would highly recommend starting with this book because it is just such a great beginner's like book to the MC world. So the hero and heroine were in a relationship in like high school, but something happened where they broke up and she moved away, and she hasn't seen him in like years, and she's coming back to the small town because her dad has unfortunately passed away, and he was also the president of the motorcycle club, and so she's there to deal with his affairs and, you know, all of that stuff. And she sees him again, and he is the new president of the motorcycle club, and she kind of has to stay in town longer for a reason, and she has to spend time with him. And there's some action because there's a rival motorcycle club, and there's some mystery about what happened to her father and why he died. And this is second chance, incredibly angsty, hate to love because he really hates her for leaving him. And I just love this one, and there's lots of action and motorcycle romance goodness, and I just remember loving like the second chance angst in this one. It was really good, and it's very light on motorcycle romance, so it's not like too heavy, it's not too complicated, and I just really enjoyed this one. And it was such like a cute, like picturesque small town and fun characters. This is a great MC romance, and if you're a beginner to MC romances, I would recommend this one. Then of course I had to include the Lost and Found series by Catherine Cowles. This is one of my favorite series by her. I recommended the Tattered and Torn series in the past video that I did for small town romances, but I knew I had to include this one because this series, I love it. And one of the things I talked about earlier was I love small town romances with suspense. And I feel like this series has the perfect mix of small town and suspense, where it's not like it's a suspense romance with just like a romance in it and lots of suspense. It's a good mixture. So this is an almost completed series, but I'm going to quickly run through all of the books. So the first book is a second chance, I think like pining romance and angsty. So the hero and heroine were in a relationship before, but something happened where the heroine basically almost died, and the hero was just like so terrified of losing her, so he literally left town like right after high school, didn't see her for years, and now he's back in town because he is visiting his family, and he's just kind of pushed his whole family away for years because he's scared of losing someone again like that, even though he didn't lose her. And so now he is seeing her again, and she, I think, is like, I don't know what it's called. She's like the 911 emergency caller people, and he's also doing, he has like a private security company, and so they're having to like work together because of stuff going on in the town, of what happened to her in the past. and it's really, really good. I love this one. It is so action-packed. Love the suspense. Such a great romance. Then the second book is Echoes of You. This is probably my favorite. So Nash and Maddie have like grown up together, like childhood best friends, and Maddie moved away because she got in a relationship with somebody else, and unfortunately he was very abusive to her, and she ended up being engaged to him, I think. And so now she has fled from like that relationship and is kind of on the run, going back to the small town that they grew up in. And that's when she sees Nash, and Nash is, I think, is also like a cop, and they like rekindle their friendship, and it is so good. If you love the trope, like who did this to you, that is in this book. And there's a lot of suspense with her ex and him finding her potentially, and it is just so good. I love this one. I love Nash. He is just one of my favorite heroes from Catherine Cowles. Next book in this series is Glimmers of You. This is a forced proximity, fake dating, kind of hate to love romance. So the heroine and hero have known each other for years, and they used to be really, really close until the heroine almost kind of like died because she didn't know that she was diabetic, and the hero was really terrified of losing her, and so he's kind of like distanced himself from her. And now it is years later, and he is coming back to the small town, and he sees her again, and she is like out and about in the small town, and this guy who just won't get a hint like that she doesn't want to go out with him. She basically says to the hero like, I'm in a relationship with the hero, and then they decide to start fake dating because he is also a billionaire and his father is really demanding of him, and it's like, you need to have a good image, you need to be dating someone, so that kind of works out for him. And so they start fake dating, and they have to prove to her whole family that they are in love and are in a relationship. So each of the books in the series, of course, follows a different sibling, and I love this one. There's some suspense in this one with a stalker of the heroine, and it is just a great romance. I loved how protective and obsessed the hero was with the heroine. It was just so good. The latest book in this series is Shadows of You. This is a single mom, reclusive hero romance. So the heroine has a very tumultuous past. She's kind of a mysterious character in this small town. Nobody really knows that much about her past, but know that she, you know, is not really going to talk about it, and you know, people don't really need to know like what happened in her past, but just know it's mysterious. And she also loves taking in animals. Like she loves like helping them if they're hurt, so she has like a gaggle of animals, and the hero and heroine have a really funny like meet cute kind of thing, where she basically is trying to save this like baby deer, and the hero works for Fish and Wildlife, and he's like called to the scene, and he's like, what are you doing? Like, you don't even know how to take care of this like deer, like this could really hurt you, and this is a wild animal. And she's like, I don't care, I want to help this deer. So it's just really funny. And Rowan, the hero, is kind of known as like, he's just known as the recluse of town. Like, he's very mysterious. He doesn't really talk to a lot of people besides his family. And once he sees the heroine and meets her daughter, he is just sold on them and is instantly attached to them, and is like, I will protect you guys. And I loved his relationship with her daughter. It was just adorable, and he would stand up to her daughter's like school bullies, and it was just so adorable. I love this book. And then the last book in this series, it is going to come out in February. This is Lawson's book. I think it's Ashes of You, and this is going to be a single dad, I think, nanny romance. I don't remember if it's nanny or not, but I know it's single dad, and it's forbidden, and also an age gap. He has 3 boys, so I'm very excited for it, and I'm also very sad because I love this series so much. Then I have Love Me Today by A.L. Jackson. This is a fun, hate to love nanny single dad romance. So the hero needs a nanny, and they live in this small town. And I think he also works on like a ranch, and he like ends up hiring the heroine, but is very skeptical of her, and just kind of mean to her, and just like a grump. And so she starts nannying for him, and she's also a horseback rider, so she teaches his daughter how to ride. And the hero has a very like mysterious past, and he's kind of a tortured hero also. And I just remember thinking this was such a fun romance, and this had some suspense in this one, with things in the hero's past, and I just loved how passionate and how much chemistry they had between each other, and how like annoyed he would get at her but like still fall for her. And I just remember adoring this one and just really enjoying it. Then I have One Touch by Lena Hendricks. This is the Sullivan family series, and this is the first book that I've read in this series, but I do plan to continue on with this series. So this one revolves around the heroine is helping, I think, like her great aunt, or maybe I think it's her aunt, renovate her house, and she needs help from the hero because he, I think, works in like carpentry or like renovating houses, and so they have to start working together. And I think he was also the older brother of her ex-boyfriend, and so it's forced proximity. They both hate each other, but they have to work together. And I just remember like laughing out loud listening to this audiobook. It was just really short. I think it was only 8 hours. And it was just such a fun small town romance, and they both like hate each other and are just annoyed by each other, but like fall for each other anyways. And they're also like chronicling their renovations like on social media, so that was a really fun aspect of this book. I just remember really enjoying this one and really wanting to continue on with this series. It is so cute. I loved like the family aspect, so definitely go pick this series up. It's really good. Of course, I had to include Reckless on this like list because it came out in 2023 and it was not included on my other video, but I love Reckless. So this is a surprise baby romance one night stand. So the heroine, Winter, she has kind of been estranged from her sister Summer for years. Her mother really separated them because of like Summer's parentage and just like not wanting them to become like true sisters and like friends. And so she is now finally in their adult years trying to repair their friendship. And so she's visiting her sister, and her sister is Summer from the first book in the series, and she lives in a small town, and like lives on kind of a ranch. And so Winter is a doctor, and she's very like city girl-esque. And so when she goes to visit her sister, she meets Theo, who is a bull rider, and I think he's also friends with the other characters in this series. And they both like hate each other at first and like detest each other, but end up having a one-night stand together. And Winter finds out she's pregnant, but then Theo ends up going on tour for bull riding, and he never finds out that he had a kid with Winter. And so it's like a year later, and once Theo finally finds out that like that is his baby, he just dives headfirst into being a full-time dad, and I loved it. I literally love Theo so much. He is so protective over Winter and his daughter. At one point he says the line like, keep the mother of my kids' name out of your mouth to someone, and it is just so good. I love this book. Theo is one of my favorite heroes. The audiobook's amazing. This series is so good. If you haven't read it, I don't know what you're doing because it is amazing. Such a great small town romance series. Then I have Final Offer by Lauren Asher. This is a more angsty like standalone small town romance. So the hero, Cal, he is a very tortured hero. He is an alcoholic and abuses substances, and he just like his life is just very disorganized right now. And so his grandfather, each of the books in this series revolve around their grandfather giving them these shares to the company, and each hero has to do something to get those shares of the company. So one of the books was like they had to marry someone. So for him, he needs to go sell his lake house that he would go to in the summers when he was younger. And so when he gets there to stay at the house, he realizes that his ex-girlfriend from years ago actually owns half of the house, and she was really close with his grandfather, and so she does not want to sell the house, and he will not get his shares if he does not sell the house. So it is forced proximity, second chance, very, very emotional. It is just a beautiful story about healing and giving somebody a second chance, and it is just such a great story. If you want an emotional, slow burn, angsty romance, I recommend this one. Then I have another Catherine Cowles romance because I really wanted to include this one on this list. I feel like it's so unique. And that is Reckless Refuge by Catherine Cowles. So the heroine lives on this small town in, I think it's like Oregon or on like the West Coast. In this small town, but she lives like on an island off of it, taking care of it. And she is definitely a recluse because of her past. Her brother murdered her whole family and she was the only one that survived. So she knows that he is in jail, but she is just always looking over her shoulder. And so the hero is coming to town. He is a famous artist, but he had fallen, like, something had happened in New York where he was, where somebody was reenacting his paintings of like, but basically like murdering people, but like with his paintings. It's kind of confusing, but like I guess would depict his paintings and would like it was a like serial killer using his paintings as inspiration. And so he is just really traumatized by that and just feels really guilty, and he needs to get out of the press. And so he decides to go to the small town, and actually he is staying on that island and renting out the house, and she's the caretaker of the island. And so it is forced proximity. They start falling for each other, but they both have like things from their past that leads to suspense. And this is just such a unique story. I love this one. It's so beautiful and really about healing and for both characters, and they both found, you know, solace in each other, and it is just such a great romance. I love this one. And the last one I'm going to share with you is Unraveling Him by Claire Kingsley. This is such a fun romance, small town romance. So this revolves around the Bailey brothers, and the hero got a car from the heroine's father, and it actually was a stolen car. So he is really disgusted by her father, and her father is a very, like, I think he's like a famous mechanic in the area, and she is working for him. And something happens where she finds like her best friend in bed with her dad, and she's like, I gotta get out of here. So she goes to the hero, and the hero detests her because of what her father did, and she's like, if you let me stay with you, I will help you find this really rare car because I know somebody that has it. And so he agrees. So it is Grumpy Sunshine. They go on a road trip as well. And it's just such an adorable, fun, small town romance. Lots of shenanigans in this small town. Like, the Bailey brothers have a rival family that they hate, and so they each do like pranks on each other, which is really fun. And they start falling for each other, and she really like melts his grumpy exterior, and he's a mechanic as well, and collects like rare cars. And it was just such a unique, fun small town romance, and I love this one. It was so good. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.